Welcome to ReConnect with Plant Wisdom. I'm your host, Tigrilla, nature-inspired mentor and leadership coach. In this podcast, I share ancient and modern knowledge from biology to spirituality about the wondrous ways in which plants can help you lead a naturally conscious life. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of ReConnect with Plant Wisdom. It's me, Tigrilla. And I debated for a long time whether or not I was going to do this episode. It was not in my planned calendar of events, and it's still very raw. But if you're like me and you were born with a innate, indescribable fear of death, then this episode is for you. So this morning, very early in the morning, one of my closest friends here at Damanhur passed away after a very long battle with illness. And I saw her on Saturday, and she was so ready. Her entire experience with illness was so brave, so public, so Damanhurian in many different ways. And now, I guess in order for me to explain to you how I am able to have this conversation with you and why I want to have this conversation with you and why I'm having this conversation on a podcast connected to plants, I have to go back in time and to an understanding that a thing my oldest brother and I share in common, which is, like I said, this very irrational fear of death. So I grew up always with an irrational fear of death. And when I say irrational, I'm talking about like fling yourself out of bed at 3:00 in the morning because the feeling of death comes and all you could do is pace frantically. And I think I threw myself out of a car once. I have jumped out about just about multiple locations where I've just like literally jumped up from wherever I was and started to pace frantically back and forth because this feeling of I can't even describe it, because it's not like you don't feel like you're going to die. It's the fear of the concept of it, the darkness of it, the whatever, all these different things. And that was me for the majority of my life. And I can't say that it doesn't happen at all anymore. I would be lying. But there was a time when this was a very common occurrence. I mean, very, very common occurrence. The only thing that would calm me down is the thought of my mother. Don't ask me why. If I think of my mother, I don't even have to really contact her, but I feel like I reach out with her with my mind. All of a sudden I calm down. But it's horrible. Like, it's indescribable. I can't really explain it to people, so they look at me weird if they're near me. I can't speak very well. I get very agitated. It's not a pleasant thing. And over the years, I've tried lots of different things, from thinking positive thoughts to different philosophies and spiritualities that I was a part of and such. And it wasn't so being at Damanhur, we have a very rich relationship with death. Rich in the sense of we kind of know what's our spirituality has a very beautiful, you might call it a mythology. We might say we know what happens after death. Like, there's an entire process. There's a rituality connected to it. There's an understanding of what happens to your soul, where it goes, how does reincarnation work, programming reincarnations. It's not a secret around here. And there's also a lot of preparation for the process of death and dying. And it's public. You don't hide. I mean, Aquila di Mare was sick, like I said, for a very long time. I was, she is my co-teacher. She's my co-instructor for the School of Method Action, the initiatic path here at Damanhur. She and I co-teach two groups. And as she was progressively getting more ill, she never stopped teaching. As a matter of fact, so Sunday was the last time we taught one of our groups, and it was the first time I had to tell the group like that she probably wouldn't be joining us again, and she passed this morning. So up until then, she had been very present. And even Saturday, when I went to go see her, we were planning the group. She wasn't going to be able to make the calls anymore, but we were planning. And she already knew that her time was coming to an end. But Damanhur has a very, very rich understanding, very profound, deep understanding. We have a whole group of people that accompany you, both you accompany your body as well as accompany your soul. There's an entire process. There's different rituals that happen. I mean, there is so much. Like people who say, I don't know what happens when you die, come talk to a Damanhurian. We'll tell you what happens. And I can only say this with a smile on my face now because of the plants. I had a period where I was spending time a lot in the Sacred Woods Temple, of course, in connection with the plants. And I came, and through this work with them, Kin really helped me to understand not just all the stuff that happens here at Damanhur is mentally prepares you in the sense that death is not a subject that we shy away from. When somebody is sick, they are still as active as they can be in the community. Even when they're approaching the end of their lives, we visit, and it's not like visit like a convalescent visits, but joyous occasions. And there's just a lot of comfort. Like it's just very present. And I have to say that I so appreciate it because I didn't grow up with that kind of topic so visible. And I didn't have a lot of people in my life. I have not had a lot of people in my life, thank you, that have passed. So therefore, this is I'm putting my hand out because my video sometimes loses focus of where I am. I didn't, and so this inherent fear was magnified by the fact that I couldn't deal with it. I didn't have to face it in a lot of ways. And then, here in Damanhur, it's in your face. Like you have all these preparations you're supposed to do. You have rituals. You have people that accompany you. You have spiritual heirs. You are a spiritual heir to somebody, so you accompany somebody on their death process. You have death witnesses who help you in the preparation and the moments right after your death. You have Karens who accompany your soul and whose entire job is to accompany your soul on this process. So it is not a conversation that doesn't happen, but it's still somewhat mental. And the emotional aspect for an irrational person like mine, the mental's just not going to do it. And this is where, thank you, all of you, the plants. Because when I was in the Sacred Woods Temple one time, the plants started to share with me the concept of death and dying. And over the years, as I became more open and more internally at peace with this process, with marrying the intellectual part that I knew about the entire process of death and dying from my spiritual beliefs and philosophies to feeling it in my body, the plants would show me more. They would help me see. I mean, let's be honest, we've all had dead plants around us. And the first time I had a plant die, while after my sort of plant awakening, my plant reawakening, it was a shock because it triggered all the same emotions that I had for humans. And then it was the plants themselves who stopped me to tell me that that's not the way it's supposed to be. And to walk me through from an emotional perspective the the way that plants experience death. Now, I'm not going to go into all of it today here, in part because I can't, like emotionally, I can't, but also because it's all inside of Reconnect with the Plant Kingdom. Like there's an entire module about death and dying that was dictated to me by the plants. And even just recording all of those, videos and writing up all those activities and doing all those exercises and conceptualizing everything that needed to be in there was such a process for me, because again, normally even just the thought of this would have triggered in me so many different emotions and freakouts, to be honest, like panic attacks type things, where instead that entire module came out so beautifully and flowed because I could feel it. I could feel what the plants wanted me to understand. And my entire goal there was to transmit not just the knowledge, but to transmit the feeling and the emotion. That is what allows me to not just go through life living instead of worrying about dying, which so many of us do, but actively talking about it, preparing for it, sharing it with my friends, experiencing them. Like I went to go see Aquila de Mare every week, every 2 weeks. Like we would talk every single day via messages and like phone calls, because again, we're good friends. We have two courses that we were teaching in together. We also are part of the Way of the Nights together, and we did a lot of planning work for that. We've been friends for the entire, she was one of the first people I ever met at Damanhur. So I mean, we're talking about one of my closest, nearest, and dearest sisters. And so to watch her physically transform and yet still feel like she was so present, so there, so connected, and being able to be in that space. I have lots of friends here that weren't able to go visit her because they didn't want to see her wasting away. And yet I was excited to go see her. And up until even Saturday, when she was basically saying her goodbyes, we talked the way we always talked. And all of that is a testament. It's not just because of the knowledge of again, that I know about what's happening and what's going to happen. Where are the next steps? How is her soul leaving her body? Where is that going to go? How does the next incarnation for her? How is it possible that we might meet again in some ways? But more importantly, there is this emotional understanding, this emotional acceptance of this path, and excitement almost for her, for the next leg. On Saturday when I went to see her, she was talking to me about, she was already starting to drift off, and I was like, where do you go? She's like, nirvana. Like, her ability to just face everything helped solidify for me all that the plants had shared with me about these feelings. So I never left her crying or feeling sad or anything. I felt just connected and present to the experience that I was having with her. And and I mean, of course I get sad. Of course I do. Again, she was one of my closest friends. Of course I feel the difficulty of that. But it doesn't change the absolute serenity and peace and comfort that I have. I miss her. I'm going to miss her. But I know that not only do I know and feel that she is off on a new adventure, I know and feel all of us are on this adventure, and that we will have all these other ways to interact. Our souls will interact. We are on this journey together because we are all Damanhurians. We've chosen certain paths, but more than that, we're all humans, and we're mixing and mingling through our personalities, and our souls are having these experiences that are helping humanity expand and evolve. And all of that trust and faith and beauty in this comes from what the plants have taught me. comes from the plants sharing their experiences, how kin live life and death, and sharing it with me, not just intellectually, but sharing it with me visceral, allowing me to be there in the death and the dying process for several plants, and allowing me to be a part of also the rebirth of plants through seeds and how the seeds then grow and all of these different aspects. And again, I pour this all out into Reconnect with the Plant Kingdom, but now that I'm experiencing it firsthand again, I I felt the need to just share it from an emotional perspective, because I think that that's the most important part. All of us will have different philosophies and different religions and different ways of us looking at what is the process of death and dying according to the way that you believe, and all of them are correct. But what's most important is how we feel about it. And I just encourage that if you are like me and you have this type of visceral, inherent fear of this process, I invite you to go connect with plants and to see if there is a specific plant that wants to share with you how Ki lives this experience, because it is like nothing else you could imagine. And I think going into the way a plant experiences it, with of course is a completely different body and a different way of living, and there's lots of little deaths, you know, within the death of a flower and the death of certain leaves, and maybe, you know, coming all the way down, and then there's annuals and perennials. And so there is so many different aspects that are so foreign to our human way of thinking about it. But I think that that's exactly it. This foreignness, this detachment from how we as humans experience it traditionally, like normally, reminds us of the overall circle of life, and the fact of, you know, kind of like the previous episode where I talked about different kinds of relationships. By experiencing those different relationships, we have a way of re-understanding what is important for our human relationships. And I think by stepping and experiencing death the way animals do and the way plants do, and many different aspects of this, and what it means to be present through that process, allows us to then step back into our humanness, augmented by all of these, by our plantness and our animalness and rockness and, you know, bacterianess and whatever it might be, and funginess, and really be and live life. Stop worrying about death. Stop being afraid of that aspect, and living in the present moment as much as possible. And so I just want to encourage you to try that. And this is why I love being a partner with someone like Gaia. Gaia has so many different shows, original shows, that help you understand this process and help you live some of these experiences more fully. And so having a faith is one way to help you start to live your present life, but feeling it like I feel like, for me, I could only reach thanks to the plants, is a whole other thing altogether. Is stepping away from just trying to intellectualize it and bringing it into my body and embracing it. So I just wanted to share this with you. Um, I know this is a relatively short episode, but I feel like there's that much more to say. You can find everything you need in Reconnect with the Plant Kingdom. There's so much there. And of course, please come and have these conversations with us in the Naturally Conscious community. You can also comment here, but in the Naturally Conscious community, you have a safe space to explore this, because it isn't an easy topic for all. It's never been an easy topic for me. So the fact that I've reached the point in my life when I can have this conversation, to me, is such a blessing. And I feel so grateful to not just the plants, but to all of the human beings that have helped me, and all the other types of beings that have helped me on this journey to get here. And I really hope for you, if this is a topic that scares you, if this is a topic that's difficult for you, that you find support in the plants, in the plantkin home, in the naturally conscious community, with me, or with whomever it is that can help you fully embrace all aspects of life, including death. And so, to Aquila, di mare, Curcuma, may you have the most amazing journey on your way to the Citadel. And I look forward to the next time that our souls meet. To all of you, thank you. And please resist the urge to hold back your emerging green brilliance. Live your life.